shirt off. Take your shirt off. Plenty.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the world's most reckless football show, the Shirtless Plantain Show. This week, we're going to talk about some iconic strikers. Let's get straight to the content. This week, strikers. So let's start off with George Weah. George Weah basically paved the way for a lot of younger African players that's playing right now. Him and Roger Miller really just kind of brought, light and really made me realize, there's actually talent in this continent, which, shout out Racismo for, holding back a lot of players. Weah's basically career started with Wenger scouting him and bringing him to Monaco. And after that, he went to PSG. Then he went to Milan where he won, Player of the Year, Ballon d'Or, and only African player to do it, by the way. Still doesn't mean he's better than Eto'o, but that's another story. And then he went to Chelsea and his career kind of dwindled from there. But Weah in his prime was, there's a goal where Weah basically ran from his corner to the other corner and scored. Weah was incredible player. There's really not that much to say about him. It's you realize.
I just remember him being one of the, along with the OG Ronaldo and Thierry Henry, George Weah was the third member of that strikers that started not necessarily playing near the box 18. That just kind of started deeper. They would pick the ball up deeper and combine, or run from deep. And he was really good at that. And you mentioned the one goal. That was the perfect example of it. But in his prime, again, he was good enough to be the best player in the world. And he was playing in the hardest league in the world in one of the best teams of his generation in AC Milan. So he was just a really fantastic player, a great role model for all of us. Even those of us that were not Liberian, we all looked up to him, growing up. And I remember one time they actually drew Liberia against Nigeria in the World Cup qualifiers. And there was a brief moment there where I was almost rooting for George Weah. That's how likable he was, based on the things he was doing for his people, because it wasn't just about the football with him. The football was great, but the bigger thing was the fact that he cared so much about Liberia. He basically ran the national team during that era out of his pocket. He would buy the jerseys. He would. I think he managed them at points. So for all those reasons, he was just a big role model to us growing up in Africa. And that's a very legendary player. But like you said, not the best African player ever, even though he won. He's been the only one to win the World Player of the Year. Eto'o is far better in my mind, but Weah was an incredible player in his prime.
I feel like George Weah as well was probably, he kind of helped usher in the like you mentioned earlier, the period and the style of striker that didn't need to stay in the box to score a bunch of goals. He could pretty much kill you from any part of the pitch, which, in that period, you didn't really have players like that had that amount of technique, yet they had the athleticism to match it as well. There was probably so much about his game that we take for granted today because we've seen it a lot more often. But at the time, there wasn't really anybody like George Weah.
It was probably maybe Ronaldo, Romario, and Weah who really was doing those sort of things.
Yeah.
And the thing is, now post-career, he's the president of Liberia. He's really done a lot of humanitarian things. He's even in the booth. He made a song against Ebola. So, yeah.
Bars.
He also donated a child to America.
Yeah, he did. A Jamaican Liberian child from Brooklyn. His son is actually a baller too. So yeah, that's how great he is. He actually gave America a seed and said, here's my child. Put him on the national team. The next player we're gonna talk about is Batistuta. I remember Batistuta with the Fiorentina and that kit. Yeah, that kit. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Man, Batistuta, when we prepare for this show, I'm supposed to remember something unique, and it's crazy. I generally plan what I'm gonna say before I say it, but I just remember that when I was young and my parents would not give me money to go buy jerseys, or I couldn't get jerseys in Lagos, the very first jersey I ever made, I used to make my own fake jerseys as a kid, and I took a purple polo and I took a black marker and I drew the Fiorentina jersey all over that purple polo and put Batistuta 9 on it. That was the very first jersey I ever owned. It was a Gabriel Batistuta jersey that I made by myself. And people gave me props. I put some work into it. I wish I had pictures of that shit, but I put some work into it. But to the man, the myth, well, ain't no myth about him. There was nothing mythical, man. Those shots were a myth. I mean, like, I don't think there's ever been there might be a better volleyer of the ball in the history of the sport, but as consistently as him, like, he scored so many goals where you thought to yourself, wait, how did the ball not rip apart? Like, why is he so angry? What is wrong with this man? Like, he just used to hit the shit out the ball, man. And during that period at Fiorentina, like, you know, he had some periods with injury and whatnot, but he was just consistently, I mean, and this was when Serie A was the best league in the world. And Fiorentina was not an elite team at the time. And he was consistently, I think he was hitting 20 goals every year for like 5 seasons. Like, no problem. Like, just a consistent player. He was Argentina's highest goal scorer before Messi showed up. So that just goes to show how good he was. Argentina is a country that has won multiple World Cups, and he was their leading scorer in his time. And they didn't actually even win anything in that era. I think they maybe won the Copa America in '93, but that was it. And he just, you know, we talked about Rui Costa in a different episode of this show, but he also had one of those iconic looks to him, you know, like with the Jesus hair, the goatee, you know, the hair, the goatee, the jersey, purple jersey with the Nintendo on front. Like, he was just that dude, man. Like, everyone liked Batistuta. Like, he scored against Arsenal, he scored against Manchester United. We didn't mind, you know, because there were very good goals as well, you know.
I feel like a lot of people realize, like, he looks so unique that Mel Gibson would have casted him as Jesus.
Like, the other thing about him, like, you know, we often ask what current players might remind us of these old players we're talking about. But as I said earlier, he really reminds me of Cavani. Like, he was like a more efficient Cavani. Cavani may probably has better movement overall, but one of Batistuta's strengths was his movement. He just, somehow in the game, he just created a lot. He shot the ball a lot. Like, he was just always on the end of chances, and he scored just as many, you know, as many as he needed to remain elite, you know. And he had to leave Fiorentina, unfortunately, to win anything, and that was kind of sad. But at the same time, he won something, so that's good to know that he won something at club level before he retired due to injuries. You know, he stopped at Inter Milan for a bit, but by that time he was washed, and it was sad for me to see. But man, what a player! Just a fantastic player. Like,
he's definitely one of the players again that I feel like in this modern day, he'd be worth at least 100 million, because you know what you're gonna get with Batistuta. You just know it. He was one of those legendary players at the time that when you'd be having a conversation about footballers, his name would always come up. He was, oh yeah, he's the next Batistuta. He's this. He's the name that my uncles would always be on their lips, kind of thing, because he was that good. And you know, when you got Nigerian uncles rating a player, trust me, they're special. They're special. You know, I think specifically he was never seen as someone that was quick, but he could shift. There was a goal that I remember he scored for Argentina. He took it literally from the 6-yard box in his box to the other 6-yard box on his own and put it in with his left foot. I'm going to see if I can find the goal, but I mean, it was sensational. He was definitely a player that, again, would be much more appreciated in this day and age, because there was no frills. It was in the back of the net before you could even think. So yeah.
The last player, I actually thought about him last week because we were watching the Jordan documentary, and this is when Tony Kukoc came up. And I was thinking about just the amount of sheer talent that came out of just the eastern region of Europe in the 90s. Just not even basketball, just in general, the amount of talent. I mean, like, I generally feel if it was possible, all those Eastern European players, they have like their best 18, they'd probably win a World Cup or 2 or 3. Like, there was so many talented players coming out of the whole entire Eastern region. So we're gonna talk about Shevchenko, and Coach, take it away.
Sheva. After Alan Shearer, he was probably the other player that I imitated in the playground. Like, I didn't imitate anyone in the playground, but it was Shearer and then it was Shevchenko. I remember when he moved to AC Milan, and he didn't stop scoring. In his first 2 seasons, he crashed at least 24 goals in the league each, in the best league in the world, moving from the Ukraine. And it's not like it was unexpected. We saw what he did in the Champions League in the 2 seasons prior as well. you know, him and Sergei Rebrov, you know, their careers kind of just like, you know,
That was Nas and AZ, baby. Nas and AZ.
it was literally Nas and AZ, but one went to Tottenham and one went to AC Milan, and
Like I said, Nas and AZ.
On the Tottenham is not going to Sugar Hill. I'll tell you that much.
and he was so. One of the things that a lot of people forget about him is his athleticism. Everyone just remembers the goals, how good he was in the air, how well he could strike the ball. But he was an athlete. He was so quick, so quick. He was one of the first players I looked at. I think, wow, like he literally runs like a black dude because he could shift. He could play on the shoulder of a defender and get past them no problem. And remember, he's playing in Serie A in the peak of Serie A. I'm talking about the 98 from like 99, to like, you know, 2004, 2005, like Serie A was the best league around, and he was crashing goals for fun. Yeah, so I remember there was an injury, I think a knee injury he got in 2002 to 2003, and we assumed that he was done, kind of thing, especially around, I think that was around the time Van Nistelrooy just got back from his as well, and we never knew how people were going to react to it. I mean, Van Nistelrooy and Perez at the time both recovered from theirs pretty well, but we always thought, look what happened to Ronaldo. He was never the same after it. But then Shevchenko found a way to carry on getting goals after that, even though he struggled initially. But I think one of my favourite memories of him is probably his big game goals against Inter Milan, obviously. I mean, the left-footed strike against them in the Champions League, I think in 2004, 2005, will always live long in the memory. But I think his free kick against Lazio, that will always probably be my favourite Shevchenko goal, because it was from such an absurd distance away, and he just managed to crash it in with like minimal effort. He was just fantastic. Shevchenko is definitely one of my favourite, not only favourite striker, one of my favourite players ever. Like, he goes into my top 10 without even thinking, definitely.
Sheva was incredible, man, and right now he's the Ukrainian manager, and he's doing good things with them, and he's actually a politician too. So, hey, man, there's life after football, apparently. A lot of these guys,
and I think as well, one of the things that we forget about these guys is that because of how good they are, like we feel like it comes natural to them. These guys are competitors, like throughout their entire life. I mean, my older brother is fortunate enough to coach one of his sons, and when they're doing the warm-up, Shevchenko likes to take part and likes to sprint with them to see if he can keep up with them, because it's just in his nature to be competitive. That's just what they are, and I feel like that's a very, very important quality to have for these young players coming up. If they really, really, really want to get to the top, that competitive nature has to stick with you throughout.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else to say. I mean, I don't think there's anything else to say about Sheva, man. These three guys that we mentioned are just incredible strikers who've done absolutely incredible things throughout their career. And it's great to give them their flowers. I mean, a lot of these players deserve it, because when you look back in history and you look at these players, like, damn, like, they were really, really good at what they did. So, we're going to continue to do this to give you guys more classical players and more classical moments. So from us, we're out. Don't forget to follow us on all of our socials. Take it easy. Peace.
Take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. Plenty.